Welcome to Attune to Your True Nature, and I am your host, Niamh Yvonne Cronin. I am here to remind you that there is a part of you that is so intrinsically beautiful, that is perfectly imperfect, that is harmonious and at one with all of natural life. This is your true nature. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of Attune to Your True Nature. I'm your host, Niamh Yvonne Cronin. And so today I'm coming to speak to something a little bit different. And I know we're at the beginning of the second month of the year, but for me and for many others, it's been rather a slow beginning, a slow start to the year. Not so much in inspiration and in ideas, because for me, I've been really, there's been a flow of creativity. There's been a flow of so many things. And I feel already that I've achieved so much this year. Yet for me, I'm only beginning to experience the momentum as of this week. And so I feel that many of you may be in the same place and experiencing the same thing. But today's episode is about wiping the slate clean. And I really felt inspired to record this impromptu podcast because at the beginning of January, I held a 4-day live free training in my Facebook community, which was called Entering the Dream. And that was really to set down or lay down the footprints or the foundations for what we were creating this year. And not just for 2019, but for 2019 and beyond. And there are many different manifestation courses and creating your new year and goal setting courses out there. And this was very different. This was something in a way very new. But also it was a very experiential journey where as a community, we really got to put the mirror up and look at how we were choosing to create from this year and moving forward. And that process really looked like us really taking a look at how can we honestly lay down the right foundations for what we're calling in, for what we're really wanting to see in the world. Because this year really marks the year in which we see a new whole trajectory for what we want to create in the world. And it's really going to, whatever happens this year, whatever we collectively allow to be created through us, through our business ideas, through our creativity, through our spoken word, through any expression that we have here will mark and lay down the foundations of what the next 10, 15, 20, and even 50 years ahead. And last year was really a year of letting go. It was really a year of shedding the last remnants of what no longer served. And when I say remnants, it's really, the old conditioning, the old stories, the old programs, the fears, the things that have been holding us back, things that have really been holding us back from really stepping into and listening to our inner voice, or stepping forward and taking action on these projects that we've been working on for some time, but have not fully given ourselves permission to dedicate all of our time, all of our energy and resources in making it happen. So last year, while it was the year of releasing, the year of reconciling our inner wounds, this year is really the year I feel, and this is just my own interpretation, is making it real. So taking that idea, taking that feeling, taking that vision that only you can see and allowing it to be made real, bringing it into this physical world. And whether that's by creating a new product, a new service, maybe that's even creating a piece of art. And I'm going to get into that in a moment, because I feel the next evolution of our transformation and personal growth is transformation through the arts. But we'll get to that in a moment. So I really just want to take a moment to really touch on that this year really is about making things happen, and not necessarily in the old approach, which is the hustle, the hard grind. And yes, there will be times where we have to work hard this year and moving forward, but we'll be working more intuitively from our center, which means we will be learning, or would I like to say remembering, how to work with our masculine and feminine energies and ebb and flow in a very beautiful dance this year. So we'll be remembering how to take inspired action on some of these ideas, some of these new projects that have been brewing for some time, and now taking those steps forward into the unknown, trusting our instinct and moving forward on some of these projects, even if we don't know what it looks like. And in a way, what you could say is that moving forward is going to be a little bit scary for many, including myself, because that means taking a leap of faith, a leap in trust, and stepping out into the unknown. And as you step out, and this is as you make any step in life, what happens is it creates an instability. If we're looking at what balance is every time we take a step forward, in the action of taking the step, we are creating instability. And then we take another step and another step, and so on. And so if you're feeling instability right now, in any shape or form, whether that's financial, emotional, maybe it's your physical environment, not having a roof over your head, or maybe not knowing where you're going to move to, whatever is feeling that's being destabilized right now, know that it's because you're making choices to move in a new direction. And in fact, you probably already have made that choice and made that leap. And the fact that you have instability in your life, or you're experiencing instability, means that you are rearranging matter, rearranging particles, atoms, or even if you want to say you are rearranging the energy in your life so that it will allow to bring through something new. So you're actually in the process of creating something new, and you're also in the witnessing of that too. Now, this can feel very different. It can feel very frightening, terrifying, and all of these things. And that's because we're shifting how we create. Because up until the end of last year, we've been creating through, I guess you could say, these limited structures, limited programs, and even this whole idea of the law of attraction, which, I feel there are still elements of truth within that. What we touched on in Entering the Dream was that we are at the point where we are even transcending these ideologies. And we are beginning to experience that how we create is shifting. So as we're experiencing these many different shifts on the planet, and as there are many different shifts in the energies that we're experiencing, also we're witnessing that these tools, these practices, these rituals, they no longer seem to be creating the same momentum or the same results as they used to. And in fact, for some people, they have reached a point of stillness, a point where it no longer is having an effect. So when we're in the place of no effect, it's almost like we are in a stillness point. We're at a 0 point. And only from that point can we move outward in a new direction. So what I'm going to propose to you is that, in a way, while there is much talk about the poles of the earth shifting and about really the direction in which the earth will transition and move and rotate in another direction, I want us to just imagine that so too, all of these practices, all of these tools, and perhaps even some of these teachings have worked up until this point, but now they are shifting. And there is no reference point in a way for what we are feeling and experiencing, only in the body. And it only can be felt through the human body at this time. And that's why we're being asked to be present. We're being asked to remain still, and we're being asked to listen. And when I say we're being asked, it really is me just sharing what my intuition is calling me forth to do. And what I'm seeing and witnessing is, as I listen and move forward more in this direction, I'm seeing many other people by my side also feeling and hearing the same thing. And so this whole idea of being still and moving out in a new direction, moving out into the unknown, what that is allowing for, it's allowing for us to create new forms of energy and motion, which over time actually create new energetic patterns. So you could see it that those that are ready are no longer focusing on trying to fix these old patterns, programs, and structures that we're no longer serving the planet, and now focusing on allowing the new to be created through us, through the listening and through moving forward, yet not fully seeing yet what we're creating. And this is what we touched on in this 4-day training. And I don't even like to use the word training, but really it was an experience. An experience of how can we choose now to create from our center, to create from a stillness, to create from a place of wiping the slate clean. And what I mean by that is being willing to let go of all our preconditioning, all our, the societal programs, all the stories that we hold about what we can create, what is possible to create, why we should create, all of these things, and just be willing to let it all go, even all the ideas that we had up until the end of the year. And even if we're brave enough to wipe the slate clean and let go of the idea of having to create or manifest these desires that we have been working towards for many, many years now, many, many days, weeks, and months. So by wiping the slate clean, it means that we have nothing now to hold on to. We have nothing now to, in a way, aspire to be or aspire to create. And in that place, we create a void. And it is only in the void that true creation can be born. It is through the empty space that a spark is created. And so this exercise of emptying the void, or wiping the slate, as I like to call it, is a very powerful process, because you're not saying, oh, I'm not ever going to do these things. You're just going to give yourself permission to let them go just for a moment, so that you can be in the stillness to hear, to attune your ear, to attune your voice, to listen as to what exists beyond the realm of what I think is possible. What exists beyond what I see to be true. And again, this takes courage and it takes faith, and it's a very powerful meditation that you can enter into, because every time you do this, every time you give yourself permission, it stretches you. It stretches you beyond the comfort zone. It allows you to imagine what is possible. So as you know, this podcast is really an audio adventure experience. And why I am creating this is because you get to experience more of who you are. And through this exercise that I'm about to share with you, it's just really to allow you to take some space before taking any more action this year, to really let go of everything for a moment and tune in and listen to where you're being called forth, what you're being called to create. And many of you listening, and I know many listening to this podcast, we have a lot of conscious business owners, entrepreneurs, visionaries, even a lot of really amazing conscious individuals in the corporate world who are really feeling the call to step up at a greater level this year. But I want you just to take a moment, because even that want, that tendency, that drive to create, let's honor that, but let's move deeper. Because until we are willing to shed all our conditioning and put the mirror up and look at, where am I creating from? Because if we're creating out of lack, out of fear, out of survival, we're creating out of need, these are the lower vibrational foundations that we can no longer create from. And in fact, these things are actually dissolving right now. And so we're being called to go deeper, to breathe deeper into our center, a part of us which acknowledges that we are made out of duality. And so I'm going to give an example, because I think this is where it really landed for me this year. Is that when we have a desire to create something, it's normally because we are in the experience of the opposite of that. So if you are experiencing lack, then you may have a desire to create abundance this year, correct? Or if you are experiencing sadness, you may want to, one of your desires this year is to create more joy. Or if you are feeling loneliness, or feelings of not being loved, then one of your intentions this year might be to create more love or to create more loving connections. Now, while those desires are healthy and beautiful, if we are not acknowledging the place at which where we are at right now, and we are creating to diminish or to cut out or to push down what we are experiencing right now, then what happens is we're just going to create separation. We're just going to continue to create and focus on the things we want because we're afraid to be with what is. Versus, what if we were able to breathe into where we are right now, to accept that in every moment, that everything that is in effect, there's an equal and exact opposite. And so right now, if you're feeling sadness, then there is also joy. And that in this moment, if I'm choosing to create more joy, I'm also in the acceptance that as I amplify my intention to create more joy, that I'm also creating equally the same amount of sadness, right? And so this is a deeper concept of it's more about us allowing for all expressions of life, to releasing the charge that we have to supposed negative experiences, and to choose now to create from a wide spectrum, to choose to create from an unlimited palette, to choose to experience all flavors of life, because knowing that even the negative experiences, without them, we would not be able to have this experience of life, this experience of being human. And so for me this year, I had to really sit with, why do I feel so called to create these certain results this year? Why am I so driven? And where am I driven from? What's the driving force? Because if the driving force is because I'm in rejection or in resistance to anything else in life, then I am creating from resistance and only creating more resistance and more separation. Yet for me, this year we're really about unifying. We're really about coming into a place of creating from owning our duality, owning that for there to be light, there must be dark. And it's not necessarily saying that we're wanting to create more shadow or create more sadness and so on, but it's acknowledging its place and no longer being in resistance to. And actually, in fact, when we're in resistance to something, we're putting more energy and more focus on it. Therefore, the more energy and more focus that is on it, the more it remains. Yet if we take a step back and if we stand in that midpoint, that point in the midpoint of the pendulum, and we breathe in there, it's honoring that resistance can be there, yet we're not focusing singly on it, nor are we focusing on the exact opposite. We're focusing on the midpoint and opening our arms up to embrace the bothness, if that's even a word, or to embrace all aspects of our experience. And so what I found is that the moment I chose to embrace my totality and to embrace all of life's expressions, that I entered into a very new relationship with reality. Now, this is just from me sharing my own awakening journey and really sinking back into nature and really questioning my own beliefs, questioning my own conditioning around how I need to create. And I started to witness and see and learn how nature allows life to evolve. And knowing that this podcast really is about being in attunement with nature, I feel like we're at a point right now where we're beginning to think and remember how nature moves, how nature evolves, how nature transforms. And how it does so in a beautiful dance, a beautiful ebb and flow with the yin and the yang. And there's a beautiful marriage of all the elements. And it's like imagining we have a plate, and on the plate we have many different flavors, or you could say many different elements that make up everything that is living. And it's through the different combinations of these elements that we create a myriad of life, a myriad of expressions. And so if we are limiting our palette, or if we're removing some elements from the masterpiece, then we're only creating from a limited spectrum. Now, this is quite, if we take a deep breath, this is actually quite a deep underlying concept or an idea that I'm proposing, because let's just imagine that for hundreds, if not thousands of years, as a collective, we've been creating through a limited palette and through a limited seeing, through a limited lens. Yet now we're at this point where everything is shifting and we're sinking into this natural blueprint, this natural connection with nature, with each other. And we're starting to understand that we have an ability now to create very differently. And in fact, what if we were not creating, but that we were syncing with what already is? And when we realize that we are already one with what we want to create, that's when the magic happens. And we sync with what we already are wanting to create, because seeking to create abundance when we are in fact abundance itself. And so this is the disconnect that we've been perpetuating. And I've said many times on this podcast already, this idea of the alchemist leaning back on the elements and realizing and merging with the elements. And when we can merge with the elements, then we realize that we have the ability to alchemize, and through our intention and through our honoring of it all. Not in resistance, because if we are in resistance to anything in life, then we are in resistance to life itself. So this year is really about putting the mirror up and asking, what am I in resistance to? What am I trying to move away from? And ask the question, what would happen if I moved closer to be able to see what it is, but also far away enough to be able to stand in the midpoint and be the observer. And this is the triad of the marriage of the Holy Trinity, right? Because we have the ability to be within it, to be the observer, but also to be the total opposite and to hold the frequency in the container, to be it all, to experience it all. Now, this takes a level of discipline, takes a level of discernment, and it definitely takes a level of courage. And what we're experiencing, or many people are experiencing right now, is a deep level of intensity. Not so much struggle, not so much conflict, not so much suffering. It's an intensification because we are experiencing the intensification of our dualities, but we're experiencing it now again in our body. We're experiencing it in our emotions. We're experiencing it being manifest in many different situations. And so if you are experiencing contrast right now in your life, then that is showing up to reveal to you that for everything in effect, there is an equal and exact opposite. And it's time to embrace the flavors. Now, in this 4-day training, what we did cover is we talked about the spark of creation. And we spoke about how the friction, the experiencing and holding that midpoint and holding that center point, that when we can hold that frequency of honoring our duality, it creates a friction. And it is that friction that creates the spark, the energy that allows us to birth and create through the truest form of creation. This is our life force. This is honoring that we have this power, we have this light that can emerge through us, that has the ability to create worlds within worlds. And I know many of you might be tuning in and wondering, well, what has this really got to do with me creating more income in my business? Or what has this really got to do with me creating more loving relationships in my life? And it has everything to do with all of that. But it's only for those who are ready to create from a different place. And this is moving deeper into our understanding of who we are as creators. And we're entering into or creating almost a new cycle is beginning, a new cycle of life. And if you're at the point in your journey where you feel like you've been perpetuating these cycles of experiences and you're tired of experiencing certain things in relationships, certain things in your business, and you're feeling stagnant, or you're creating similar results, but you're feeling like it no longer fulfills you. And yet your soul is calling you forth for to shift gears, but yet to shift gears and in the old way is only creating more resistance. It's creating more tension. Yet this is almost like shifting down to first gear, even into neutral, and just surrendering into the neutral and being in that space until you feel the spark in your engine ignite. And that spark in the engine is going to propel you forward, and it's going to take the driving seat. It's going to propel you forward, and it's actually going to catapult you in a direction that may feel counterintuitive. It may feel, even in a way, quite different or even quite terrifying, but it will propel you or catapult you into a whole new direction. And when you trust that and allow it and you move with the energy, magical things are going to unfold. So I'm going to leave you with this piece that I wrote. And in a way, you could say it's a spoken word piece. And it's really just to allow yourselves to just close your eyes and just to tune in and listen to the words. But it's really just to spark to spark some deeper answers in you, to really get you feeling into how you want to lay down the foundations for what you want to feel and experience moving forward from this year forward. And putting the mirror up and asking the powerful questions that will let you have the courage to wipe the slate clean. And just for a moment to see what is possible when you create from that place. So I hope you enjoy this. And if you would like to have access to the 4-day Into the Dream experience, then you can do that. I'm going to leave the link in the show notes. And you can do that by coming and joining our private Facebook community. As your vibratory rate increases, this is your capacity to contain more. Your focus is now not necessarily on raising your vibration, but more so on how to attune to your natural vibration, how to attune to your natural and innate potential. It becomes a focus on being the container, being a container to access more, to feel more, to allow for the totality of your humanness to be felt, witnessed, and experienced, allowing for all extremities of emotions, all possibilities, all probabilities to be felt, experienced from your unique focal point. You see, when we seek to express, feel, or have an aspect of who we are, and only one aspect of who we are, let's pose the question, are we not continuing to perpetuate an illusion, living a distorted version of our truth, living to a fraction of our true potential, and allowing only for a limited capacity to create and receive? And so the more and more we awaken to our potential, the more and more we realize that we must be inclusive, to allow a myriad of possibilities to ignite and swirl within us, not excluding, cutting out, or diminishing our choices, but being an abundant yes to all of who we are. Then and only then we can allow for the unimaginable to ignite within us. We allow for the possibilities for the totality of our potential to be actualized in the moment of acceptance of what is. The acceptance of our duality is when a spark is ignited, a spark of divine unity, a field of potentiality so pure that can allow for new possibilities to emerge, new inspirations, new possibilities for your life, your relationships, for your business. Things never thought possible emerge from a state of harmony because you are no longer creating for the purpose of having to get away from, or you are no longer creating out of lack or creating from a need or a void. You are simply allowing for divine inspiration and creativity to move through you and to create simply just because you can. Taking charge and becoming the creator. So let's pose the question. If you had nowhere to go, nowhere to be, no expectations of self or others, what would you create? If you could wipe the slate clean, how would you be spending your life? How would you be living? What would you be creating? How would you be adding value to your own life and to others? Again, no expectation, no preconceived ideas or beliefs on what is possible. This is a blank canvas. Anything is possible. This is embracing your childlike innovation, your childlike curiosity, your childlike adventure. Imagineering what is possible, conceptualizing ideas, giving life to the new within you, with no restraints, no rules, with no limits. As Einstein said, logic will take you from A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere else. So have we forgotten our magic? Have we forgotten how to create? Or are we creating from logic, reason, expectation, lack, or need? Are you willing to let it all go? To strip back all the conditioning? To take a journey into the wild unknown of your true nature and create from a place of untapped potential and possibility? To give yourself permission to start anew. Each day is an opportunity to start over. Questioning your goals, your desires, and your intentions. Are they really aligned with your present focal point? Are they really aligned with what your heart desires in this moment? Knowing that at any point it may change. Can you give yourself permission to have it all, to be with it all, and not just one side of the coin or one end of the spectrum? So the question is, can we allow ourselves to experience the totality in this moment, to be with the extremities? Let us not limit ourselves with our conditioning, our beliefs, and our judgments. Let us feel now the limitless amounts of love, yet at the same time allow for the limitlessness of luxury. Let us be a greater container for abundance, but also be a greater contributor to the resources of others. Let us be deeply connected to our own divinity, be compassionate and loving, but also be so human to allow for our shadows to be seen, witnessed, and explored. Let us be okay with having epic morning rituals and practices, yet at the same time wild party nights. Let us explore our nature, be in the dance, be in the expression of it all. Let us travel endlessly exploring this magical earth, yet at the same time have a beautiful home and sanctuary to rest and rejuvenate in our hearts. Let us embrace all of our experiences, the highs and the lows, the wins and the failures. Let us enter a space of harmony, giving ourselves 100% permission to create from a place of harmony. Knowing that from there a unified field of intelligence is awakened, which acknowledges our universal power to create. A field of energy that uses polarity of expression to create friction, to create a spark, a field of energy so potent it can allow for anything to be possible. So what if this year, rather than saying, I want this, but not that, I wish to experience this, but none of that, how can we choose it all? How can we accept the limitlessness of who we are, accept the duality of our nature, accept to live to our true potential is actually to be at one with all of the elements, to be at one with all of nature, not exclusive, but instead all inclusive, becoming the alchemist of our reality by choosing it all, and from there being in the choice of the all. Then we become the artist who paints in a full spectrum of colour. And while we may think by allowing for it all to be present may block what we desire, what if the opposite was true? What if by allowing the full experience of duality and bringing harmony to that, to being acceptance to all of life, it opens up for unlimited choice? And so this year I am choosing to create from this place. I am choosing my totality. I am choosing my infinite choice and infinite potential. I am allowing myself to wipe the slate clean with no preconceived attachments or beliefs on what is possible. Let us embrace our humanness. Let us allow ourselves to paint a vision with no constraints, with no rules, no limits, and no judgments, and create from an infinite field of potential by firstly creating harmony within ourselves. To dream bigger than we've ever dreamed before, and to receive more than we have ever received before. They say the sky is the limit, but in truth, you are your limit. Today's episode was brought to you in association with Attune Me, a vibrational medicine and diagnostic tool to empower individuals to attune and return to their natural state of being. It's a tool to dive deeper into our own personal self-sovereignty, to learn how to detect and release the energetic root of all underlying imbalances in the body, and help restore the mind, body and spirit back to its pristine and natural state, which really is at harmony with nature. If you would like to know more information about Attune Me, then go over to attuneme.org, where you will find out more information about our personal attunement sessions, experiential workshops, and retreats. Until next time, take care.